Welcome, everybody. It's Raj and Gabby here with Fights Clean FCSDTV
and relationshipfunandgames.com. Thanks for joining us tonight.
We're here in season 2, episode 5. Season 2 is the season of peace.
Yes, it is, because we are entering the holidays and we know how stressful that time can be for couples and for everyone in the family. But absolutely, that added stress of time or where we're going to spend the holidays or money or whatever it is, the stress gets kicked up a notch. So it's real important that we look at the season of peace. And today, the topic is going to focus on how to keep the fights clean during. So you're in the heat of it. How do you unhook? We call this the argument escape hatch.
So just to familiarize you with how we run our show and our content on a week-to-week basis, we're going to show you a little bit about that first. So
I'm going to change the screen. Mm-hmm. You know, when we got married, someone came up to us and said, I don't remember, I wish I remembered who it was. And they said, let me just tell you, keep the fights clean and the sex dirty.
And everything will be okay.
And everything will be okay. And that's how we came up with the name of this show. So as you know, we alternate each week between how to keep the fights clean and the sex dirty so that you can come and engage with the topic that's really most applicable to you. For most of us, we address both of these issues at some point or another, but sometimes one's a bigger issue for you, sometimes the other. And also it may be whether your challenge is before the fight or sex or as it starts. Maybe it's the seduction or avoiding an argument when you hear the hints of it coming, or maybe it's during, again, for both sex or keeping the fights clean, or after. So we like to organize all of our tips and tools and ideas into these categories so that you can go and get the information that's going to be most valuable to you specifically and not have to sift through a whole bunch of stuff.
Right, so you can see here visually, we have the fights clean content with the angel heart.
Yeah, gotta have the halo.
The halo, and then we have the sex dirty with the heart with the devil horns on it.
Yep, be a devil in the bedroom, but when it comes to your fights, keep that halo.
And the graphics here just help you distinguish where we're at with our content, whether we're looking at fights clean before, as it starts, during, or after, or similarly for sex dirty. And today, as Gabby mentioned, we're talking about how to keep the fights clean during. What we're going to talk about today is super, super important because when you're in the heat of an argument, it's so easy to spiral downward and downward and further into the depths of your fight or argument.
They can be a slippery slope. In fact, I was just picking up, we're going to talk about this relationship a bit more, but I opened up one of my favorite relationship books and it just says in my writing, react or respond, choose. So this is going to be about responding, not reacting, so that when you are in an argument, you can unhook from that and really return to a new place, even a better place. And we actually have a few tips that we're going to just refresh your memory about or plant the seed if you've never heard about them. And then we're going to take one particular tool and really focus on it, the one that we find is most important. In fact, of all the reading I've ever done, research I've ever done, I think this is the most important tool. You want to say a bit about us first before we get into that?
Yeah, let's do that.
If you're new to the show and you don't know who Raj and I are, we have been together almost a decade, just a few months shy of a decade now. And together we have, I think over 40 years of training in personal development and education. I have a master's in education. Raj has a master's with an emphasis in education, also mechanical engineer, which I guess you could apply that engineering mind to relationships too, huh?
Yeah, totally. You know, it's all about systems thinking and how do you actually dissect problems and dissect the different elements of what makes a relationship work and not work. And
well, you dissect the problems, but remember to design the solutions. You only look at the problem long enough. So Raj brings in the systems and I bring in the fun, and together we have relationship fun and games. I like to call Raj the Energizer Bunny of transformation, because even when there's a difficult time, sometimes that could be a longer period or shorter period, but I always know we're going to get through it because we both have a commitment to not measuring our relationship by how many years we've been together, but actually by how happy we are and how much we're really enjoying each other.
Yeah, and one of Gabby's favorite expressions is pigs can fly.
Pigs can fly.
I love that.
You know, when people read our wedding vows, they thought, oh, those are fairly unreasonable. And we thought, no, these are the touchstones that we want to come back to, and that we want to be held to as well. And if you're interested in those wedding vows, you can check out relationshipfunandgames.com and go to the About Us page, and it rotates through our 12 wedding vows that we focus on one vow per month, every month, and then say that vow to each other so that we can keep those alive and not say, what did we promise so many years ago?
Yeah, we actually say our vow most every morning at breakfast. And our vow for November is, I promise to accept you
exactly the way you are, and to be myself with you. Yes.
So that is what
authenticity and acceptance. Love that. Okay, so what do you say we dive into today's topic?
Sounds great. And just a few notes about the format of the show. One thing is our moderator is away, has been away for the past couple of weeks. So if you see me glancing up to shift things, it's just me doing moderation things in the background. So apologies for
wearing multiple hats today, but we're looking forward to having you back next week, Sarah.
And also halfway into the show, if we do have some guests that want to join the Hangout, we'll make that join the Hangout button underneath the video player live. And so we'll let you know if that goes live. And if so, you can refresh your browser window and click on that and join us in the Hangout and ask us questions. And we'll answer them live here.
Great. Yeah, and actually today we normally have a interviewee. Usually we like to have a couple, but Raj and I talked about it for tonight's show, and usually we kind of spend 3 to 5 minutes talking about one of our tips and then focus on the tips of our interviewees. But this tip, as I said, it's not just our favorite. We just think it's the most powerful tool. It's not ours. Well, we modified it a bit. But we took the best of the best and made it even more memorable and more accessible. But it's such a good tool that if it's not working, you're probably not doing it right.
Yeah, so it's pretty fail-proof.
Yes.
If you're doing it right. Yeah.
Yeah. And the great thing about it is you don't even have to try and solve a problem. It's not about that at all. So we'll get to that in a second. But I just wanted to point to last season, we talked about the tool of Stop, Shift, Start. And that is our very first tip and tool that Raj and I ever came up with. So I encourage you to go back and look at season 1, episode 5, where we talk about how to keep the fights clean during, and Stop, Shift, Start, which is really shorthand for let's just stop what we're doing because we're not being who we're committed to being in our relationship. Let's shift to who we said we were going to be and move forward from there. It's kind of like, in fact, we'll sometimes blow a whistle or pretend to blow a whistle and throw a flag on the play. I call Stop, Shift, Start. Yeah,
it's really awesome because usually one of you has some level of ability to pull out, and be like, okay, hopefully we're not going in the direction we want to here. And calling Stop, Shift, Start can really expedite the moving back to being loving with each other and really getting something even from the argument rather than just having it devolve.
Yeah, and really build that muscle that if your partner calls Stop, Shift, Start, that you make sure that you're actually following, you're following their lead, you're embracing the olive branch, which we're going to talk more about today, and really accepting they're reaching out to you. Only once or twice have I said, F Stop, Shift, Start. We do have those moments, but as best as you can, when your partner extends any form of an olive branch, you want to take it.
Yeah, and so as you see, one of the bullet points here on the distinctions for keeping the fights clean during is embracing the olive branch. So if one of you offers an olive branch, meaning, hey, okay, we're being crazy right now. I love you. Let's move to what we're actually committed to. That it's really important that you, as the other person in the relationship, accept that olive branch.
And if you're saying olive branch, why an olive branch? An olive branch is a symbol of peace. In fact, the United Nations flag has the olive branch in it. A peace dove usually has a little branch in its mouth. That's an olive branch, a symbol of peace. So when that is offered to you, take it. And we're going to dive into the argument escape hatch. That's the one in detail. But yeah, I was just going to say, let's go back to turn up the volume. You want to tell them about that one?
A little bit, yeah.
It's a fun one.
Turn up the volume is
otherwise
really
known.
Fun one.
Can I get some wine with that?
So usually, most often, when you're in an argument, you really turn into some younger version of yourself, whether it's a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old. Something gets
somewhere in 4 to 7
from your past that that you get triggered about, and you know, instead of pretending that you're being an adult, when you're actually really being 4 or 7, whatever. You turn up the volume and pretend and actually be the 4-year-old or 6-year-old, 7-year-old that you're being.
Should we tell the story of the example of that one?
Sure.
Yeah. So when Raj and I were getting married and planning our wedding, there was only one thing. You know, it's a stressful time. There was only one thing we got into a fight about, and that was who his groomsmen were going to be. And
I was totally like, that's my decision. Most men, you can probably relate to this.
Right? You should be able to, he was right. A man should be able to choose his groomsmen. Except he was doing it wrong.
Anything in the wedding, it should be my groomsmen.
He was doing it wrong. He was choosing people I had never met and I would never see again. And I just hated, you know, when you look at people's wedding photos in the family, and, you know, I remember looking at my own going, who's that? Oh, that was so-and-so. That was so-and-so. I wanted people that were going to be there for the rest of our lives. So I said, we have lots of friends. Why don't we choose family? Anyway, we got into an argument about it. It got a little heated.
Like, I'm not giving in on this one.
Nope.
This is my choice. You can't tell me what to do.
And he said, I've got to work now. And so he stormed off. And I was really upset at the time. And I said, okay, I'm feeling really upset right now. I'm going to turn the you know, what's the 4-year-old conversation in there? And then I'm going to turn the volume up on that. And I thought, I want it my way. That's the 4-year-old conversation, or 7-year-old, somewhere in there. So I went downstairs. I opened up the door to his office. I literally, it was a marble floor. I literally threw myself on the floor, kind of went sliding in, started kicking the ground and saying, I want it my way, my way, my way, my way.
Like full on.
Full on. And because that's what I was being. I was throwing a temper tantrum really as an adult, just pretending to be mature. Barely. So why not turn the volume up? And we both laughed, and it just gave us a little bit of separation and distance from it so that we could come at it and unhook from that upset part. And we got to laugh, which actually releases great chemicals in your body and allows you to think better. And then I got my way. A little humor goes a long way.
And I have to admit that she was right about that one. So
yeah, we went with all family members.
Mm-hmm. And we love our wedding photos.
We love our wedding photos. It's great. Only brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And cousins.
Awesome. So should we get into...
Let's get to the meat of the matter.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Okay. So you got the turn up the volume and stop, shift, start, and embrace the olive branch. So little bits of those. Oh, and on stop, shift, start, we wrote a blog on that one. So if you want to know more about that in detail, please go check it out. It was our very first tool that we created, and probably one of our most used. You say, well, drama-free diet is, but we used to use this one a lot. We're much better at it now.
Yeah.
You don't need to call stop, shift, start so often. Okay.
Okay, great.
Argument escape hatch.
Let's dig in.
You want to start? You want me to?
Why don't you?
Okay. So in an argument, most often we think that we want our way, as in that last scenario. But really what people want the most is to be heard, to be understood, to be seen. You know, there's billions of people on the planet, and people feel insignificant. They want meaning and purpose and acceptance and just connection and engagement. And so a part of that is really embracing communication and listening to each other. So you don't actually have to solve the problem here in this tool, which is so friggin' fantastic. And this tool, it's not called the argument escape hatch. It's actually, we call it that. It's called the Imago dialogue. And it's by these wonderful people, this couple, Harville Hendricks and his wife, Helen Hunt. Hold up the book there. This book was published almost 30 years ago now. Almost 30 years ago. Oh, hold it up. There you go. Almost 30 years ago. And it's still my favorite relationship book. Although I would have been 14. I wasn't reading this 30 years ago when it came out, but I've been reading it in the last 10. And then about 3 years ago, they came out, same people, with this one, Making Marriage Simple. And lots of tips and great tools. You'll hear us reference Harville and Helen all the time. But one of their practices, there's a form of therapy called Imago. And it's based on the idea that you choose your partner because they're perfect at opening up your unhealed wounds. So that gives you a chance to actually heal them. The problem is they have actually no skill to heal your wound. You have to actually teach them those skills to heal your wound. But those skills that you teach them are exactly what they need to be more integrated and whole and complete. So for example, I was pretty masculine, task-oriented when I met Raj. And what he really needed for some of his wounds was for someone to be softer and more motherly with him. And when I started doing that, people started saying to me, oh, Gabby, you're so much softer. You're so much softer. And it really removes any blame in the Imago therapy, because you no longer get to say, I don't like that you do that. You say, why did I choose that? And what is it about my wound to be healed?
Yeah, and one of the things
you want to share about your Imago with why you chose me?
In just a sec, yeah.
Okay.
So one of the beautiful things about this theory that works in practice is the problems that come up in your relationship are no longer viewed as problems. Actually, Gabby has this awesome alliteration that she came up with that's kind of a tongue twister.
You want me to,
yeah.
you want me to say it?
Yeah.
The problem is not the problem. The problem is you think the problem's the problem. The problem is actually the path. Or as my good friend Sasha Lala shortened it to say, your mess is your message. So if there's an upset or a conflict, you want to be looking for the gold, look for the pony and the horse poop.
And the reason why this is so powerful is that for some reason, we have developed this sort of meme around relationships that if you're with the right partner, that it should all be
easy.
Cakes and ice cream.
Yeah.
No problems. And if there are problems, that you're with the wrong partner. And if you have that attitude as the context for your relationship, then you're in trouble. Because, I mean, if you actually...
Because anytime a problem comes up, then it's like, oh, this shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, totally.
As opposed to, why is this happening and what can we get out of this?
Yeah, in fact, it's the gold. It's the gold that helps you develop into the human being that you really desire to be.
As I like to say, the pony and the horse poop. Mm-hmm. With all this horse poop, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere. So look for it. When you've got that conflict, where's your pony? Be committed to getting your pony. And this is one way that you can do that. So Imago therapy is what we've been referencing. That's just to give you a little bit of an overall on the concept. But the tool we're talking about today is the Imago dialogue. And
it allows you to take those points of upset in your relationship and actually move through them, and in a way that helps both develop you personally and your relationship with your partner whereas otherwise you just be stuck in the poop.
Stuck in the poop.
And you couldn't find the pony.
I call it stuck in the muck. And, you know, while we're talking about romantic relationships, you can use this across the board. In fact, we had a house guest a few weeks ago, and house guests are a little bit of a challenge with Raj and I. I love having them all the time. He likes having a little bit more quiet time, more of the introvert, more of the extrovert. And we had a house guest for almost over a week, almost 9 days, and it got a little heated. And so after they left, we decided to all of us, our house guest, his wife, Raj, and myself, the four of us, to get on the call and to all go around and do an Imago dialogue. Because all you have to do is really listen. Now, when I say all you have to do, it makes it sound like it's easy. It's not easy. It is simple. But, you know, someone may say something that you want to correct. You know, we'll back up. We'll go through this in a bit, step by step. And also I've created a few little mnemonics or memory games to make this easy to remember, because when you're upset, your brain isn't working so well when you're upset. It might be a little bit harder to remember. So we're going to simplify for you.
The key principle as shown here on this slide is that communication is key, and it can be complicated.
It is. In fact, you know, I used to teach life success at the college level. And when I taught communication, I would draw two faces on the board and show all the different places in communication where things can go wrong. You know, you think an idea and you have to take it from your thoughts and put it into words. You have to encode it. there's a possible breakdown. You know, am I really getting the words that I really want? Then you have to speak the words, and your partner there has to hear it. There's an opportunity for a breakdown. Once they've heard it, then they have to decode it. Another opportunity for a breakdown. Then they have to have their own thoughts and encode it. You get where I'm going. But in one exchange, there's no less than 4 opportunities for miscommunication. So have compassion with your partners. Get that it's really important, but it is also complicated. So be compassionate with each other.
Yeah, and then somehow we're expected to know how to communicate in relationship. And so Gabby and I looked and researched all the different communication tools out there, and there's a few that really stood out.
Yeah, I will. Well, we're going to talk about the Imago dialogue today. I will also just make mention of Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication, or otherwise known as compassionate communication, about making observations, stating your feelings, identifying what the need is based on that feeling, and making a request. So we'll talk about that one in more detail, but I just want to give a little plug in case you're chomping at the bit to get more communication skills right now.
Great. So shall we dive into the Imago?
Well, just one second. I just wanted to mention this part about logic will get you nowhere.
Yes.
I'm the daughter of an attorney, and debate and logic was healthy in my household and growing up. And I always thought if I could just explain things clearly enough, they'll get my perspective. But in an argument, in conflict with your beloved, it doesn't work that way. They don't care about your logic. And not only will logic get you nowhere, it can actually be explosive. And people can get frustrated with you. So don't try to rely on logic. I have one friend that everything is about logic and justice. And I said, but women are crazy. So your logic isn't going to help. But the Imago dialogue will. This is really about the interaction, not the outcome. As I said, you don't have to solve the problem. So we've gone through all these tools. Let's go ahead and look at this one in more detail.
All right. So in any conversation, there's 2 people involved, and there's the sender, the person that's speaking, and there's the receiver, the person that's listening to the speaker. And so in the Imago dialogue, there's specific steps for both the speaker and the sender and the receiver. So we're going to outline the steps for the sender, and then outline the steps for the receiver.
And I mentioned a bit ago that I created a mnemonic or a memory game so that this would make this more memorable. These steps, you know, that we'll go through, these are actually Harville and Helen's steps. But the sentence at the bottom is the one that I created. So I said to myself, okay, I'm in conflict. What's it going to take to communicate, and to not just communicate to get it off my chest, blah, emotional vomit, but really so that the message lands and makes a difference for my partner and for myself and for our relationship. So I took the first letter of each one of the steps and created a sentence. All it takes is vision, wisdom, and relatedness.
Yeah, it's funny because Gabby's been saying that for probably a year or more, and I couldn't quite get how that was related to the Imago dialogue until I drew it out. And as you can see, the first letter of each word in this mnemonic tool is the different steps that you take.
Oh, you thought that was just my general tip, was just to remember vision?
I knew that it had something, but I didn't quite get it. I needed to see it visually. So
all it takes is vision, wisdom, and relatedness. So if you can remember that sentence, yeah, what does it take? It takes vision, wisdom, and relatedness. That's all it takes. And so that was easy for me to remember. So when I wanted to communicate a message, I think to myself, okay, what does the A stand for? Well, it stands for an appointment, because perhaps if you're really upset and you actually can't listen to each other, then maybe, you know, Raj taking a shower is a great reset for him, or going for a walk. You know, it might be the next day, it might be in 10 minutes, but you want to make sure that it's a good time to talk. And you might even just say, is right now a good time? Can we take, you know, X number of minutes, whatever it is that you're requesting?
Yeah, and you really have to be open to it not being a good time.
If your partner, stretch yourself.
Because the conversation, the dialogue, this tool won't work if
you don't do it.
Yeah, and this is the first step.
so make time. If you got time to fight, you've got time to do an Imago dialogue. I just was always crazy to me when people are like, oh, we don't have time for sex, and oh, we don't have time to work on our relationship. But somehow you find time to fight.
Yeah, so make the time to have the conversation, but also make sure it's a good time.
It's an investment.
It might be in, like, the other person, like Abby was saying, might still be stuck in their upset too much to have a dialogue, or they might need to be doing things like take care of work-related things or the kids or whatever. So it might not be a good time when you want to have it. You got to make sure that it's a time that works for both of you. And make that time.
So the second piece is to be intentional. So make sure that you actually have a intention or a goal. What do you want to get out of this? Is it that you want a different result? Is it that you're requesting a new behavior? What is your intention? In this case, with the Imago dialogue, really the intention is to be heard and to hear. So you really both just feel seen and heard. And it is amazing. It is miraculous that if you can just feel heard, 9 times out of 10, the issue completely dissipates and disappears. Not always, but so often that it's absolutely shocking. Okay, so have an intention and a goal.
Great. So
third step.
Third step is T for topic. So often when we share, we want to say everything before we even give the other person an opportunity to like hear what we had to say, and it's very hard for the receiver to actually follow what you're saying and actually do the remaining steps that we'll show you in just a moment if you do the everything brain dump at one time. And so you want to stick to one topic at a time and be brief with what you're talking about. So if some argument happened, you want to, when you're talking to your partner, you want to just say I got upset when you walked away from the car before I even got out of the car, for example. That sometimes happens with
What
us.
are you trying to say? I'm a little fast. I'm a little ready to go. Yes.
And so that was one thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Rather than maybe 5 other things that could have been thrown in there and then made it very confusing for the person to know what exactly you wanted to talk about.
Yes. So pick one topic. Make sure you're intentional and you pick one topic. And then you want to avoid using you statements. Say I as much as possible, because you want to say things that are inarguable. I was sad, or I felt, anything that is about your experience.
Yeah, and we could use this car example just because it's an easy example, right? It's not that charged and it's easy for people to follow. So sometimes when, pretty much every time we go somewhere, Gabby's out the car and
he's barely slowed to 5 miles an hour, and I popped out.
And I'm gathering my wallet and turning off the car, make sure it's locked, And so, the topic, as I mentioned, I get upset, or it hurts me, or I feel unloved when you leave the car before I'm out of the car. And so that was using I statements.
Great. So also then the next step, B, for all it takes is vision. Vision is voice. So you want to use a calm and clear tone of voice. There's a lot of research that shows that between 90 and 97% of communication is nonverbal. So your pace, your tone, all of those, there's a lot of the physicality as well. So just be conscious of how you're delivering your messages, with what words and tone and spirit you're delivering them with.
Yeah, it's not like, I got upset when you left the car, because that's just, asking for an argument.
In fact, once there was a exchange where I was upset at Raj and I snapped at him, and he was so calm and relaxed when he responded. It just soothed me, and it had my intensity feel totally inappropriate and not helpful. It was pretty obvious and really calmed me. His calmness drew me into being calm.
Yeah, so really gather yourself, and even if you may be upset or hurt, really focus on speaking in a calm, clear tone of voice.
And then your words. So it's not just the tone of voice, but what words you are using. If there are inflammatory words, you want to refrain from those, and, keep it simple. And this is, watching your words, it goes back to being intentional, not just for a goal, but what words you're going to use, if there's any particular triggers that you want to make sure you're not throwing landmines at your partner.
And other words that Gabby has trained me on being careful of using is always or never.
Yes.
these sort of
exclusionary words. Yes.
Yeah.
Never, only, always. Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes, words that are, it's possible and it leaves room, but if it's exclusionary, yeah, those are words. Thanks for being specific about that. That's a good tip. And then finally, reinforce what's working. What are the positive steps that are taken? So it might be that you're sharing an issue and you might say, well, and I see that we've been working on this and we've taken these steps. So you're giving them a positive environment to lean in towards. This is what we have done and this is where I'd like to go. So the sender, this is about the sender. All it takes is vision, wisdom, and relatedness. And this may seem a bit challenging. You may feel a bit clunky about it. It gets much more natural and comfortable. Although I will say the receiver is much more difficult than the sender. So let's take a look at that.
Okay.
But so valuable. As you've probably heard Raj and I say, if you've ever listened to the show or been on the show before, wonderful is worth it. It takes something. It doesn't have to be work. Raj and I call it, let's play peace. So we can make this fun, but it does take something, but it is really, really worth it.
Yeah, and practice,
We got up at 4:30 in the morning. 4 in the morning to get on a plane today to get where we were going and drive, and we left at 4:30 in the morning. We didn't get where we were going till 12 hours later. Not one argument, no tension, even though we were sleep deprived, only had 3 hours of sleep.
And here we are hosting the show.
Yes.
It would have been a very different story if we had a very tense day.
Yes.
Okay, great. So let's move to the receiver. So this is a person that's listening.
Yes. So, but you're not just listening passively. You're going to be listening and giving it back. So the mnemonic I created for this one is loving more seals victory every time. How can I be a good listener? I can love more. And if I love my partner more while I'm listening to them, then we're going to be victorious and we're going to walk away from that exchange feeling like we did a good job.
Awesome. So yeah, so when you're listening to what your partner's saying, you want to practice, and this does take practice, to listen in a way that they'll feel seen or heard or gotten. It's one of the most important things that we don't actually give people very much. Mostly what we do when we listen is we're waiting for them to stop talking so that we can then say what we want to say, and we don't even acknowledge what we heard them say.
Yeah, we often react. At best, we respond, but rarely are we truly listening. And, Raj for 2 years, he took on being trained on how to listen. And it so made a difference. The first time he said to me, is there anything else? When I had just told him what I was upset about. I mean, it just totally took out any of the tension, any of the conflict. And I just felt that he really wanted to hear what I had to say. And he really cared that I felt heard.
Yeah. So guys out there, that's a golden phrase. Is there anything else?
Is there anything else?
But
yeah. We got a little song and dance actually about it. We'll get to in a second. That's coming up. So L is for listen. The L in loving, listen, and listen so they feel seen, heard, and gotten, as we said. Mirror is, M is for mirror with more. Loving more seals victory every time. And that's about mirroring their language. What's the words that they're using, their energy, their tempo, their body posture. And that flows right into S for summarize, which is you want to give back to them, using as much of their language as possible, but don't say it word for word and be a parrot. Just give it back to them in the way they gave it to you.
So let's do a little example with the car thing, right?
Okay.
So, I asked for an appointment. So, hey, honey, I feel hurt, and I feel like you don't care about me when you leave the car when I'm still getting it locked up, and then I have to go walk after you. I feel hurt.
So Raj, when I jump out of the car and leave right away and not wait for you, that has you feel hurt. Did I get it?
Yes, you did.
Is there more?
There might be. See, it's great because you can actually look and see if there's more. And it's almost like bringing out a sponge, getting all that stuff out. And when these things build on themselves and you don't have the opportunity to express them, it creates distance between you.
And just to bring a little fun, you want to switch it back to video? I'm going to do the dance.
Oh, yeah.
Again, we like to do things so that we can make them memorable and fun. And so when I first learned this practice, I kept forgetting, what was I supposed to say after I gave everything back? And so we created a little song and dance. Ready? Did I get it? Is there more? Did I get it? Is there more? Did I get it? Is there more? And so you want to make sure your partner gets to the point where they say, yes, you got it. And no, that's it. You got it. You gave it back to them.
Let's just do it quickly where you use different words.
Okay.
So, honey, you know, when we get somewhere and you leave the car and I'm still locking up the car, and then I get hurt when you leave the car before I do.
So when I run off before you're ready, you get mad at me. Did I get it?
Not quite.
Oh.
Yeah. So, you know, she said in essence what I said, but she used different words.
And
right?
a little bit of inflammatory.
I
said mad instead of hurt.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the English language has a lot of words in it. How many words? I don't know.
I don't know.
Lots of them. And
I think it's like 26,000. I'm not sure.
When we pick words, we pick them for a reason, because they reflect our state, what we're feeling. And if your partner, when they're doing the mirroring and summarizing, use different words, then it's not the words that you said. So you're not going to feel hurt or gotten because they said something.
It's going to feel slightly off. It's not going to have that quite of that resonance. So you want to keep going until your partner says, yes, you got it. No, there's no more.
Awesome.
Then you shift to the real important parts with the validate. Well, they're all important, I guess. But the validate and the empathize. Now, the validate can be difficult because sometimes when someone goes to validate, acknowledge their conclusion. I can see how you would feel that way. That doesn't mean you would feel that way. It doesn't mean they're wrong. It doesn't mean you agree with that with them. It just means you can see. You're not a crazy person. I can see how you might feel that way. And this is this is the very first tip in the book, Getting the Love You Want, that I mentioned. It's called differentiation. And what that means is you are not your partner and your partner is not you. You feel things differently. You experience things differently. And so it's okay. It's okay for you to say that you get, even if you wouldn't feel that way, that you get how they might feel that way. So acknowledge what their conclusion is, even if it's different than yours.
And it's really important that you really truly get it. Like almost you have a visceral feeling of experiencing it from their perspective, because you can intellectually get it, but that doesn't do it, right? You could say, okay, I understand. Right?
Yeah, this is about getting into their shoes
really
and saying, wow, if I made the conclusions you made, that would hurt. I would hurt too. Mm-hmm. And that's where the empathy comes in. That must be painful. So I might say something to Raj. If I did the whole piece together, I might say, Raj, I hear that when I could get out of the car before you're done locking up and getting your wallet, that hurts you. And I can imagine that when you do so many loving things for me, to see me walk off without you, that I could see how that would hurt. And that must be really painful and sad to see me walk away from you.
And when the person does it right, you totally melt. You're like,
oh yeah. And it doesn't mean I'm never going to do it again. And it doesn't mean there's an experience of hearing each other. Now, you can follow it with one of their great tips called the behavior change request. But the Imago dialogue is just about hearing each other. And as I said before, 9 times out of 10, if you do only that, you both feel completely heard, then you can move forward. Now, when I say you both feel completely heard, it's important you don't do a tit for tat. Wait a bit of time in between your Imago dialogue. One person asks and says, I'd like to communicate. I'd like to be the sender. And then there's a receiver. And have that communication be whole and complete. Then have a break, whether it be 10 minutes or 24 hours, and come back. And then you can exchange the roles and have the sender be the receiver and receiver be the sender.
And the sender is complete when the receiver asks, is there more? And you authentically can say, no, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah. And this is why also you need to make an appointment, because sometimes this can take some time.
So loving more seals victory every time. And you can see this graphic we found online. Someone has shortened it. Loving, listening, validation, and empathy. Listening is loving, validation is caring, empathy is healing. And if you can feel what your partner is feeling, not because you would feel the same way, but simply because you care about them. In fact, we mentioned our wedding vows earlier, and one of Raj and my wedding vows is, I promise to care about your experience and happiness, even when it conflicts with my own. That doesn't mean I'm going to walk on eggshells. It doesn't mean I'm going to, bow down to everything you want. It means I'm going to care. If you're not happy about something, that matters to me.
Which is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal for your relationship working.
And that way it can't be like, oh, I win and you lose. There is no zero sum. It's actually, how do we create a win-win?
Awesome.
Yeah.
So there's some steps there, and Gabby and I actually have little flashcards, and we pull them out when we want to have an Imago dialogue.
I even have it on my phone. I drew out these flashcards and wrote it, took a picture of it and put it on my phone. So if we were out and about and we wanted to have an Imago dialogue and I was upset and couldn't remember the instructions, even with the mnemonic, I could pull it up and follow along.
So you might want to take a little screenshot of the slides on the YouTube video and have them on your phone for when you need them.
There you go. There you go. Put it on your desktop, put it on your phone. You could hold it on your phone, but for a while when I wanted to memorize this tool and other tools, is I'll go ahead and put it on the screen so that when I turn on my phone, it's the first thing I see. Really great reminder. You want to have, if you say you want to have better communication skills, it doesn't have to be that hard. You just have to put little bits of effort. You may have heard me say before, just a little bit of intention, attention, and action over time can make a huge difference in your relationship. Really the difference between either a default, boring relationship where you're living parallel lives, or worse, when you're on the verge of divorce, to one where I love my alliterations, where you're absolutely delighted, and literally we've been together 10 years. And how many times a day do I tell you I love you?
Many times.
Yeah, like twice?
No, 5 to 10 times.
5 to 10 times a day, and it's all absolutely genuine.
So I'm putting in the comment window, if you see me looking away here, if you'd like the steps to the Imago dialogue, we'll actually send you the 2 slides that show the sender and receiver. Just shoot us your...
Is there a way to attach the file in the comments there?
I'm not sure, but
okay, we can at least copy them and put them in there in the comments. So we'll put them in the comments here. But if you'd like the graphic, we can send you that graphic. Just shoot us your email. You can either put it in the comments here, or go ahead, and email me at gabby@relationshipfunandgames.com, and we'll get that emailed to you so you can have a nice looking version of that for your phone or your desktop.
Awesome.
Okay, should we look at the action option? And then you want to take this live so that those listening can ask questions if they'd like, either in the chat or in video. It's up to you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's get our action option going here.
So while you make that live, I'll go ahead and talk about the action option. Is that good?
Great.
So, as I said, a little intention, attention, and action can go a long way. But even with your intention, if you don't have any action, then not much is going to change. So every time we offer a tip, we'd like to offer an action option. And sometimes it's as simple as writing something down and putting it visible where you can see it. In fact, we mentioned before putting this on your phone. So I'm encouraging you to write down somewhere, or Raj, you've expanded it now to take these images from these slide decks and put them where that you can see it, so that when it's time to be the sender, time to be the receiver, you have that information available and preferably even memorized. Maybe you put it on your bathroom mirror, maybe on a Post-it on your dashboard in your car, but put it somewhere that you can see it so that you have that information beforehand. So when you start to get in a conflict, you'll have that reminder, let's sit down and do an Imago dialogue. And then do it. It only works if you do it. And if it's not working, you're probably not doing it right. So go back. So there is no saying, oh, you're wrong about this, and this is what I really meant. There's none of that. You can always go back to that when you're doing your Imago dialogue and say something else you wanted to say about how you felt misunderstood and it was really something else. But when it's their turn, you're just giving it back to them.
Great. One of the things that we do is we actually sometimes we'll do an Imago dialogue with another couple supporting the dialogue, because then if you have sort of a third party that can support the steps, because sometimes you get a little triggered in the conversation. So it's nice to have a sort of, what do they call that? Impartial or
third party.
Third party.
Yeah, third party. Absolutely.
To hold space, and it's great because if you have friends that are in a relationship, you can start doing some of this work together.
Yeah, Raj and I, we do a call with another couple every 2 weeks. We have a call, and they're our closest friends. We can share exactly what's going on, and it's just comforting to know you're not alone. Now, perhaps you've been to therapy before. We went to therapy for a year before we got married. We wanted to make sure that we really had worked out some issues. And that was really helpful in some cases. In some cases, we'd leave sessions even more mad than when we got there. Because again, it's about problem pathologizing and dissecting. And we really got committed to designing solutions. That's what this work is all about, being playful and proactive so that you're moving towards what you really want.
Yeah, and one thing to remember, and it's something that we really want you to remember, is just because you're having problems in your relationship doesn't mean there's something wrong with your relationship.
It's hard.
It's normal.
Dealing with your own emotions and challenges and hunger and moods and sleep is challenging enough, but then you have another person.
Yourself, right?
I know, but then you have the two, and who knows, maybe you have children, or, you know, in our case, we're running 2 businesses. You know, there's all sorts of different things that are going on in your life and you know, draining your energy. So it's really easy. In fact, you might find this in your relationship that you're just upset and cranky and it has nothing to do with your partner, but you're kind of kind of taking it out on them.
Yeah, if you caught our episode last week with Brian Franklin and Jennifer Russell, check out that episode, Sex Dirty as It Starts. Awesome episode. But Brian was talking to me once about how you can be having an argument with your partner on your way home in the car by yourself. And you think it's like a real argument, and then you get home and you've already had this argument with the partner and they don't even know it. So that's one thing to just consider, that you don't even need to be in the presence of your partner to be having an argument with them. Another thing is that we often will take out our frustrations on the easiest, most accessible person to us. Like, we can be in a completely bad mood and upset or whatever, and even if our partner did nothing, we can look at them as the person to vent at.
So you may have heard us talk before about naming your arguments so that you can know it's not what's happening in the moment, but it's a pattern that you're exhibiting, again, based on those imago patterns we mentioned at the beginning of this show. And it's really important to see those patterns. Raj and I, we as I said, we name them. That one there you called?
Which one? Tell me.
I'm your #1 fan. It used to be I'm not your enemy, because Raj would get upset or cranky. Something was going, usually computer related, the computer's crashing or something of that nature. And he'd get real upset with me. And I'd be like, I'm on your team. I'm your #1 fan. Why are you getting upset with me? I'm not your enemy. And so we've actually worked on that, you know, naming that dynamic. In fact, we were joking, we need to go get one of those big foam #1s so that when he's upset, I can go, I'm your #1 fan.
Yeah, totally. Okay, awesome. So those are our tips today.
Great.
For how to keep the fights clean during.
And if you want to show this next slide, we will plant the seed for next week for how to keep the sex dirty during, in the heat of it, while you're getting your groove on, how to keep it spicy. And really looking forward to this episode and sharing with you all of our great tips for that. And that will be a week from today on Wednesday, 11/11 at 5:30 p.m. In the meantime, if you want to get your hands on some more relationship fun and games goodies, just getting started, we have a free guide. So if you go to our opt-in page here with relationshipfunandgames.com/FG-quickstart-opt-in.
We'll throw that in the comments.
Put that in the comments there. If you give us your email there, we will go ahead and send you. This is really beautiful, easy to scan, easy. You can even post it to remember all of these tips. It's our 25-page free guide. And does that send them the cheat sheet as well?
No, that's another thing that they can get,
well, we'll make sure we'll get you another cheat sheet in another way, because that's the summary of the ebook. Now, we mentioned getting some help maybe with another couple, if you're going to work with you know, another couple supporting you, supporting each other, but it might be that you need a little bit more personal attention. So we also have our, oh, I jumped the gun.
You know, and I don't think that we put that in the deck.
Okay, well, I'll mention that now, and then you can talk about that piece then.
Yeah.
But we've had a few people asking us if we actually work with couples. And while Raj works with companies with our other business, I do work with couples. And as I said, I have a master's degree in education with an emphasis in counseling And we design a 17-week game. It's really a 12-week game, but 5 weeks of creating it, so that you have this shared relationship vision of what you're moving towards in your relationship. So you're not dissecting your problems, but you're aiming for what you want and then looking at what gets in the way, only in the context that it gets in the way of what you want, not of focusing on the problems actually themselves. So if you want a little bit of extra support from me directly, we have one more spot available before the end of the year. So you can reach out to me at Gabby@relationshipfunandgames.com. And Raj is going to go ahead and put that in the chat, in the comments as well. It's called Diamond Mining Coaching, because we're going to take those lumps of coal and we're going to turn them. Remember I said the problem isn't the problem is the path. So we're going to take the problem and translate it into what you really want, so that you both are aligned and moving towards together and in partnership, working for the relationship of your dreams rather than against each other to be right or get your way.
And if you want to dig a little bit deeper into some of the distinctions that we share on the show, the free guide is sort of an overview.
A little scan.
The ebook is a wonderful 60-plus page book that, in a very simple, easy to follow way with action options for each distinction, covers the 5 steps of how to keep the fights clean and the sex dirty. And we go all the way from step 1, which is admit it and taking action.
Yeah, because if you don't acknowledge that there's something, that's lacking in your relationship or something that you want to be better, then you're never going to do anything about it.
And in step 2, we really look at identifying what the problems are.
And if you can see that, I put the word problem in quotes, because remember, the problem isn't the problem, it's the path. But you have to know what is it that you really want, that you're paying attention to.
And in step 3, a super important point, get clear on how you want it to be. Or as Gabby likes to say, really be proactive about how you want it to be instead of getting stuck on how you don't want it to be.
Yeah, you want to have that vision, the vision of where are you going.
And then in step 4, it really, really helps to understand the quote-unquote solutions that don't work, those ones that you were probably trying now, which we call unsatisfactory solutions.
Yeah, and we put solutions in quotes because it's not really a solution. This might be, you might be saying to your partner, well, you first. If they do that, then I'll do this. So they're kind of these unconscious things that we do thinking it will solve our problems, and they don't. They're not solutions.
And then finally, in step 5, we go through all of our different tools, looking at fights clean and sex dirty, before, as it starts, during, and after, and really give you some awesome, applicable, easy to use tips that have play, peace, and passion all integrated into them.
That's right. We want you to have a P3 relationship: playful, peaceful, passionate.
So if you want to check out our ebook, go to relationshipfunandgames.com/ebook, and we'll put that also in the comments window.
Thanks everybody for joining us this week. The world needs more love. We need more love in the world. So the couples that are together, we want to help you really enjoy your relationship, not just stay together, but actually enjoy your time together, so that people can tell and it rubs off on them, and at dinner parties or even walking on the street, people go, wow, look at that couple, because it does make a difference.
Yeah, one of our expressions is that if your relationship sucks, your life sucks. And you can probably all raise your hand over there in the audience if something isn't working in your relationship. Pretty much trumps everything else that's working.
Yeah, the only thing that's usually will trump that is health. If your health gets in the way. But yeah, Raj often says, if your relationship sucks, your life sucks. Or what's that other expression? Happy wife, happy life.
Happy wife. So thank you for joining us on the show today, and please join us next week. It's going to be an awesome episode.
Spicy. How to keep the sex dirty during. Let's kick it up a notch, as Emerald says. Bam.
And again, shoot us your email address to the Gabby@relationshipfunandgames.com. Post it in the comments window if you'd like to have those notes on how to do the Imago dialogue, how to do the sender and the receiver steps.
Good luck in all your conflicts. We know that wonderful is worth it, and you can do it. A little bit of intention, attention, and action. See you next week.
See you next week. Thank you.